Hello, welcome everyone back to another episode of Energy Unleashed with Suzanne and Kim. Oh my God, woman, it's been a little while for us, right?
Been a little while.
Yeah,
Well,
I know.
I
It's nice
know. We
to
kind of
be.
missed our first week in a long time.
I know, and
Like
it's
it just,
basically my fault because I was being the traveler. So
so was
actually,
I though. We were both gone.
yeah,
And you didn't
actually,
have a voice when you came back from
that's
Peru.
right.
So
That's
yeah.
right. So we were both traveling at the same time, and I think we had kind of made mention on a couple of the podcasts prior that we were both going to be traveling during, this kind of like really interesting energetic time period. So you were in Hawaii and specifically where?
Maui, like
Maui.
Kihei, Wailea area.
And you were basically gone the entire time I was gone, which
Yeah.
when I was in Peru. So basically the both of us were gone for almost a full, what, 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
14. I think
Yeah.
it was 13 days, 13, 13
And
and a
we
half.
didn't plan it like that. We both were like,
No.
I'm like, when's your Peru trip? And you gave me the dates. I'm like, oh, we're in Hawaii that whole time. Yeah.
Which I think was
So,
super, super interesting. And we reached out to a couple of our other peers and friends in the industry that do some energy work. And I think it was really even more interesting when the conversation came forward in that a couple of others were gone the exact same week, also in really, really energetic places, one being in Mexico, one being in Bali, one being in Florida, one being in Arizona, Sedona area. I mean, there was a lot of us traveling at that exact same week, and I think that that was super interesting. And then
mhm.
additionally, I found out that there was, and I apologize, I don't know the name of it, but I guess it doesn't matter, some gathering of elders, meaning I believe Native American elders,
Yeah.
from all over the place. And I believe it happened in Mexico during that time period. And they were discussing and really, I think, sharing where the energies were at in terms of this whole ascension process since 2012 and what's happening and, what is the true ascension and what is the historical aspects of the turning of the wheel and the equinoxes, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, it was a big week for energy. Let's do you first. Did you feel a lot of the energy when you were in Maui, like different or heightened or anything?
So Maui for me, as soon as I get off the airplane, I can feel different energy. And it's
Wow.
very female energy, like kind of nurturing feeling. But I also, as soon as I see the water, the ocean, and the whales, I'm just like out of my mind, like happy to be there. So I did, though, I had not been feeling good before we went on the trip.
Right.
And I was able to spend time, like I have a spot on the beach on a lava rock that's
Yeah.
right down by the water. And that's where I usually go meditate and journal and stuff while I'm there. And I had some very significant um, time where I am sure that I was downloading things and
Okay.
I felt like I could see visions of it wasn't like a I don't know, it was just visions, faces periodically, and I saw the whales and I saw like different things as I was meditating. It felt like the ocean wasn't sad like it has been
Mm-hmm.
previously when I've been
Mm-hmm.
there. The animals seemed like in a good place. Like
That's
I
good.
didn't feel like there was sadness there either. I felt like it was more about the people this
Oh,
time on the island. And oh, guys, where is it coming from? But anyway, yeah, I felt like the that there's so much still going around. They're finishing up the cleanup of Lahaina, the fire.
right. Right.
There have been a lot of people who have been displaced from the island. There
Okay.
are a lot of businesses that haven't made it. They're shorthanded at different things. So it's just felt tougher around the people part of the
Mhm.
island, not as zen around the
Right.
people as it usually is. Because I think they're really struggling. And I think that industry-wise, I don't know if their tourism was down because of that. I mean, obviously there are hotels that were gone or there's activities that aren't there anymore that they haven't been able to rebuild yet. So I think it was more around the people and kind of survival of
Hmm.
how things are.
Yeah.
Um,
Does it feel heightened, Kim, like a fight or flight kind of a level, or is it just kind of a surrender, or is it just sort of a
it's
what
not a
is?
surrender. It's more disgust and angst and
Oh,
some fear, maybe.
okay.
Yeah. And so I definitely spent a lot of time, in that spot journaling. And I felt like I call her Mother Maui or Priestess Maui. Like she comes out in different. And
Sure.
anyway, so I did a prayer for her because the island is just so amazing, and the energy coming from the island I could feel was more love-based.
Okay.
And anyway, so wrote a prayer around that, and then did a little crystal grid thing in the sand and buried it.
Mhm.
Hope I don't get in trouble for that. But anyway, what I
I'm
heard,
sure they're going to come and find you in Nebraska,
I did
Minnesota.
rose quartz and regular crystal quartz, little
Yep.
nuggets. And what I heard is that the right people will come along and they will find one of
Oh,
these, and it will be healing for them. And so I thought that was kind of cool
that's really cool.
that it was something that would be given forward as it's ready.
Love
So
that. Love
yeah.
that.
So that's kind of how that went. It was a really actually joyful time, and we enjoyed my time with my in-laws, and yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and so you're on more of a personal trip, whereas mine
Mhm.
was we'll get into more of a professional trip, but you still get a lot of your own personal, what we would consider Zen time or
Yeah,
whatever, meditative time, correct? I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
spend a lot of time. We walk the beach and get in the water, and just it's very healing for me to go
yeah.
every year.
Do
Yeah.
you have any feeling, Kim, of that the energies that are coming through? Do you feel, and I don't know if there is a difference in the feel because this is your kind of like backyard to play in more than mine, but do you feel a difference between, oh, that felt like Lemurian energy or that felt like Atlantean energy? Do you have a discernment between that or a designated feel between those two historical timelines, even though they kind of overlap?
Yeah, I know that past life I've had some Atlantean,
Hmm.
but I really feel like the Hawaiian Islands are more Lemurian.
I do too. Okay.
And so, and I think that has to do with some of the faces and images that I saw is
Mm,
more around that. I think,
okay.
um, I felt that that's what it feels like to me. But
Okay.
yeah. And I mean, Maui, the sanctuary for the whales is like right there. And it's where they birth their whales. They come out down from Alaska. They birth their whales, which is very motherly. Like the energy in the water and energy on the land just feels really female to me.
Yeah.
They mate there, all the things. So it's really, yeah, nurturing to me.
Yes.
Yes. Mhm.
I gotta get there pretty soon. One of these days,
Yeah.
we'll both be on the rock going, okay, we're finally here on the rock.
And then
That's
you're like,
awesome.
and then what? Well, now
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Well, and then across the other end of God knows where, I was off to for the first time on my Peru tour since 2020.
Mhm.
So that I did the Peru tour for my attendees and or clients, etc. for what was it, 7 years, I think, in a row. And then in 2020, everything obviously came crashing down. We literally got home right prior to the outbreak, and then the actual oh my goodness, the whole country of Peru just really, really struggled for 2 years with the whole COVID thing. And then they had some massive political unrest for 2 years. And so as a tour director and as a human being, didn't feel safe
Mhm.
until it was probably halfway through last year where I decided, okay, we're just going to go for this. So this was the first time that I actually went in February versus January. And just even that month difference was interesting, plus the fact that it has been raining, 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 raining. And it is a little scary when you go to some of those places in Peru when it's really the rainy season and or lots of rain because in 2020 we had done a side trip following the actual attendee trip with my family and we went to this lovely little town in the jungle
Mhm.
and in actually was wiped out the week after we left. 100% gone, like gone.
It flooded or what?
Yep, it just
Oh my
flooded it,
gosh.
like took the whole entire city right out of the jungle. It was crazy. And to sit there and think of all those places we went and those people we met, not tons died, but the infrastructure was gone and it was insane. And so that was a little I don't know. Kind of running in the
Like
back of
you
your head,
just,
like, I don't know. This is going to be safe or
oh,
not. Well, lo and behold, we actually were one point, and we have quite a big group. We had a 17 this time. So by the time we have our tour guide and our shaman and our drivers, et cetera, we're at that 20 point, right? 2021 point. And we had a huge bus, a really big, lovely bus, and we got stuck twice in the mud. And so at this one point, we were coming around the mountain roads, which are ridiculous anyway. Most Americans are like, holy bananas, we're gonna die, right? Yeah. Well, we come around the corner and it's just all just like the entire mudslide. And so our lovely Gito driver, he just like was going around and we're all just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So I had forgotten a little bit of the treachery that, we can come up against there. But I think one of the things for me, I was a little I myself was probably in the, and I don't want to say it negatively, but I'm gonna, the worst alignment that I've been since 2020 body wise. The most like my asthma had been kicked up. I had all the a lot of problems with my mercury poisoning in between. All of that stuff had happened to me. So I was excited to go, but I knew I wasn't in top form. And you can go from, sea level to 5 to 6, 7,000 feet to at one point we were at 14,000 and up. And it was really, it was very concerning for me to know if my human body was going to be strong enough to lead and, da da da. And I was impressed and unimpressed with myself in terms of, yeah, I mean, it was a little bit scary to feel very human in terms of, wow, my breathing is not at the level I would like it. So I've made a deal with myself to start going again on an annual basis and probably most likely we'll look at this coming next January. But I'm giving myself the year to really work on that concept of you still have every ability to increase your strength. We all do. And I think when we do a trip like that, we're not doing huge trekking. It's not huge, huge hiking, but it's enough of an incline and enough of a level of no air that you're like, oh, I got some work to do. And I think that that actually made me feel pretty good about it and excited about it, not as depressed as I thought it was going to be. I tromped all the way through Machu Picchu, and Machu Picchu this year was absolutely stunning. For the first time ever, we chose to go super early in the morning. For anyone that's listening to this and wants to do Peru and Machu Picchu's on your bucket list,
mhm.
do it soon because every year the experience of Machu Picchu is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And now they're doing almost like you have to buy certain, almost like a lottery ticket draft. And our wonderful guide, Ronnie, was really diligent to get, 20 tickets at a certain time. And so we opted to go the very first ticket break in the morning, which was starting at 6 a.m. So we had to get up at like 4:30. And of course, we're all whining and groaning on the bus ride, going, oh my God, what were we thinking? But I am telling you, when you walk into Machu Picchu, you're at your bus thing, and then you walk up the back way and you come to the top, and then you come around the corner, and then boom, it's there. And
Oh my God.
every year I take attendees, I'm so excited to watch their faces, especially the ones that have never been there before, because it is a wonder of the world. You are in awe. There's nothing about it that is not awesome. And this year, there was nobody there hardly at all because we were the first ones. It was so early. And to look at that incredibly sacred site with no tourists gave it a completely different feel. It was so ethereal. It was so smoky, wispy with the actual
I
beautiful
was gonna say,
clouds. But
wasn't it kind of like,
yeah, it was
yeah,
magical, but it wasn't locked in like we've had before. I mean, it was awe-inspiring. It was just, yeah, you could really get the feel of what it was and how it felt much more without a billion tourists walking around taking selfies.
right?
So, yeah, which of course we all did. But yeah, it was absolutely magical. So that for me was really wonderful. There was a couple of places I was saddened to find really changed quite profoundly since COVID, as has your Maui situation since the fires, and that they just economically didn't make it. And
Mm.
that was kind of disheartening. One of my favorite jewelry stores that we would bring everybody to for really high class quality stuff was gone, but it
Oh,
was
that's sad.
replaced with another one, but not exactly the same kind of vibe or jam or anything. The town itself of Pisac was one of my favorite places to start my tour, and that was completely gone in terms of how the market was. It used to be, if you remember going twice, it
Yeah.
was out in the big, square in the central square, and it was live, and the herbs are out there and the corn's out there and everything's out there, and then the stuff, and now it's all in storefronts. And the actual square where that was all live and beautiful and gorgeous was now just a square of concrete where people kind of hung out. And so that was very different, and made my heart kind of really sad to see how economically they did struggle, really, really struggled there. And now they're in these storefronts, and it feels much more like kind of getting barked at. Hey lady, whereas before it was much more of a community feeling versus feeling like you're getting barked at like a tourist. And so that
Right,
was,
because it was local people that were willing to share what
yeah.
they with their goods, you
And
know.
that was a little sad, but I guess considering how much everything went through, I get it, I get it. And the actual hotel, thank God, where we used to go was still perfectly lovely and wonderful. In fact, it's even upgraded, so that was really great. And we went to quite a few of sacred spaces, a couple new ones for even me. Our goal this year was to work with crystals like you did. In fact, we had discussed it, as did those other peers we had talked about, so that we all used some crystal, crystal, what do we call them? Shards or
Yeah,
fractals or
just little
whatever like that.
fractals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I brought various sizes from big chunks like this all the way down to those. And each attendee had an actual chunk that they chose, and they worked with it the entire time of the tour. And we do a lot of tarot reading, and we do a lot of, growth things and a lot of meditations. And every sacred place that we would meditate at, they would also grab a secondary one and work with two. So this is my primary one or whatever hand, and then my secondary one. And then the secondary one we would put into a grid like you did. And then we would add to our grid with either tarot cards, flowers, whatever from the nature, da da da. And we would implement that grid into that sacred space. And then we would bury a piece of that grid in every one of them. So we were doing very similar work. Our goal was to connect with the crystalline grid within the earth itself, which was part, I think, of the structure that the elders were doing, actually talking about activating inner grids and etc. So I believe that it was powerful work. There was some really powerful transformations for some people in their individual healings. We do healings all throughout the week, and then they have an individual separate healing by the shamans that come down from the hills for us every year. So it was a lot of work. Some people really, really went deep. Some people were kind of confused because it was their first time and this is different, but caught on very quickly. I think everyone did some seriously deep work. One of the things that we did this year that I think was so incredible was we visited in person the village in the middle of, I don't even know where they hand did the alpaca. And so they had the actual process, and they showed us everything. And it's a village of all different kinds of communities that come together, and they'll take the actual alpaca, and they do it on the little, what would you call that? The little, almost like it's not a dowel. Is that
Yeah,
what
I
I
think it's
think
a
they call
dowel.
it? I
Yeah.
think it's a dowel. And they're doing this and they're spinning it, and you're watching them, and you're like, oh my God,
How
because
does
your
that
brain is
work?
like, that's like a big ball of stuff off of that darling little animal over there. And now you're making it be actual yarn. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But no, that's only the first part. And then they show how they have these unbelievable things of yarn, and then they show how they hand dyed everything.
Oh gosh, because our
The
dyes are made from natural
Oh my
ingredients,
God.
right?
We saw a
Vegetables.
titch of it when you were there, but this was
Yeah.
the full blown. She smashed and crashed and crunched, and it just turned into colors like you're wearing. Like how the heck those berries in that bark turns into the color that you're wearing naturally was phenomenal to watch right in front of your eyes. And then you would watch them, dunk it in with some salt, and you would literally be able to hold a brand new like thing of wool in 2 seconds. It was mind-boggling. It was mind-boggling. So then they showed us how, that works into the weave, and then that's what they do all day. Their job is to weave all day. And they're in these beautiful, colorful outfits that are their normal clothes. And I
Yeah.
kept telling the attendees it's so funny because they think that these people are all dressed up because we're tourists and we're coming to see them. I'm like, no, that's how they dress. I mean, that's how they dress. And each of them has their little elements to their tribe or their group or whatever, and that will be embedded into their weave. Like maybe I'm really about the mountains and I'm really about the animals, or I'm really about an eagle and you're about a snake or whatever. So all of their personalities are woven into their things. And to be able to really learn the depth of the product that you're buying was fascinating. And I think it's amazing that tourists still will go, how much?
Oh,
And now I'm like,
all the work and the
I
love.
yeah,
Oh,
I wouldn't even argue with you or haggle with you. In fact, I might even tip you because it was so unbelievable, the beauty and the artistry and the time spent and the energy put into it. I mean, and the products were just phenomenal. So I think that was probably one of the coolest places, and I most likely will leave that on the tour each year because it was mind-boggling that that even happens. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. So.
oh, how beautiful. I just love the people there anyway. So I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. So the
yeah, they're
people didn't feel
adorable.
like it changed. It felt a little bit, when you're in the valley, in the Sacred Valley, it always feels peaceful.
Mhm.
Even if there's political unrest, you're still peaceful. In the Cusco area, it felt pretty similar. Lima is not my favorite. We did Lima at the end for, a day
Yeah.
and a half, and that still is not my favorite place, but it's
It's a big
another part of the
city.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then one more element though was the jungle. So when the attendees leave, I take my family on a side trip, like I said, and we went to a different part of the jungle. So we went to the Amazon, the lower part of the Amazon, because I wanted one of my particular sisters who had never been there before to experience a completely different kind of like look and vegetation, etc. So you get on the plane and you get down to Puerto Maldonado, and we stayed and then jump a boat and you go down the Amazon, gigantic Amazon, to this resort that is technically an ayahuasca resort.
Mm.
So I don't do ayahuasca and never really cared to do it. But 2 years, no, 4 years ago when I was in 2020, um, I was really conscious about what ayahuasca was because the year or two prior, I had gone to this same exact Amazonian resort with my other sisters and got completely freaked out in the middle of the night because it's pitch black. This creepy feeling came out of the jungle. I thought we were going to die. I don't know what it felt like. I can't even explain it. And I was terrified. And all I had was my phone to look at my own body to know that I wasn't going to die. That's how terrified I was. So this is like what, 6 or 7 years ago, 6 years ago, probably. So then in that 2020 period, I worked with the ayahuasca feeling a little bit more to try to get more comfortable with it because I knew I would probably embrace it again sometime in a jungle. So this time we get to the same exact resort. It's been years and years. I get off the boat. We get to our little hut. Funnier than crap, we're in our little hut. I'm with my sister who had experienced the last round with me. And I'm super stoked because I've done a lot of work to be friends with ayahuasca now, right? So that I don't have to take it this way and have the hallucinogenic experience, but I can do the healing.
Yeah.
That's how I download it, right? So I'm feeling really good and I'm thinking, I got this, I got this. We get into our thing, we drop our suitcases, we walk onto the little porch of our hut. Instantaneously, this wind kicked up and we're like, oh my God. And I mean, Kim, it was the biggest wind. It was like hurricane level. It felt like a tornado. And the entire resort is screaming. All of the staff is screaming, get in your huts. And Ronnie's screaming, get in your huts. Shit's flying through the air. I mean, lawn chairs are flying. I mean, it was like Dorothy, Dorothy, you're like, what is happening? And this was so insane. Trees, gigantic, huge ficus trees, clunk in the back of the woods, took out an entire building in the back. We're like, what is happening? And it lasted for all of maybe 3 minutes. And then it was completely gone. And everybody in the entire resort said, I don't even know what just happened. That's never happened ever, ever, ever. And I go, I'm here.
Oh my God. They're like, you think you are in a good place.
Sisters come out and go, oh, like the ayahuasca doesn't know you're back now because I mean it was so funny because for those that don't know, I work with wind and I can invoke wind super easy and I can kick up wind like I do at the cabin all the time. And it was hysterical. Now, whether that's a true thing or not, we don't know, but we laughed until we cried. It was really funny. So anyway, I navigated the ayahuasca like a champ.
Oh my God. That's just nuts.
It was really fun. So, I think that that place has a lot to offer. If ayahuasca is your thing, great, look into it. But please, please, please do it in a place that is safe and does it correctly, if you want to put it that way. There's a lot of plant medicine down there. There's a lot of other things that people work with for plant medicine as well. But it just, yeah, it was fun to be back. It was great. I did not feel, however, a gigantic, like, oh my God, this crazy energy is happening during that week. And I think you and I were both a little
Mhm.
um, not disappointed, but kind of confused in that if this was technically supposed to be such a big energy week and we had so many workers and we weren't the only ones around the country or the world, I'm sure. And it had to do with this massive alignment with all of the planets and all of the everything. And it felt super chill. It felt
Yeah.
really chill.
Yeah. Like
It was
it's
weird.
like I kept thinking, is this a calm before the storm?
That's
It's
what
so
I'm wondering.
calm? Like,
Yep.
and it
Yeah.
not, yeah, it just didn't feel like anything big.
So we had connected via text and then eventually phone when we both got back and said maybe this is the calm before the storm. And I'm not saying that to everybody for any, negative reason, but I think there is a lot of shifting happening. There is a lot of things going on in the bigger hologram of what's happening here, which is now allowing more chaos and more disclosure, but it is also energetically balancing in some ways. Oftentimes when I teach for the vibe people, we talk about the hologram as much like a Jenga game where it's wobbly and the pieces aren't in. And I feel like that week it felt like a lot of pieces were put back in the Jenga game, that a lot of this structure of our hologram is really being put back together in a really, really safe and methodical way to open up portal systems, etc., to the cosmos and more. So I think it's really an interesting time.
Mhm.
I think that it is something to be aware of. I don't think it's anything fearful inside of my body right now. I know a lot of clients are confused and kind of wondering what's happening, but I think if you're doing your work, meaning staying out of fear and doing your own work in your own body, I think this is a really kind of a short, well-deserved reprieve.
Yeah, and I think March was meant to be that. If
Yeah,
if you listen to other, healers and different podcasts and stuff, it's March was meant to be kind of a regroup and
reset.
especially for yourself, like
Yes,
really understanding what your boundaries are and what's important for you as an individual. And I think it's hard, what's hard for a lot of people right now is the politics and some of the things that are happening, with the
yeah,
government and stuff. And I think you just really need to know what matters to you and what's important to you, like and let the rest go because there's a lot, there's so much happening really quickly, and it's really hard to keep like the emotion out of it, I guess, and the fear and all of the other things that can really build up quickly if you are just absorbing all of that from the media still. Like it's just a lot.
it is, and it's going to continue to be a lot. And like we have said since the beginning, the very, very end of March and through April was where we always kind of had this feeling it might get a little rocky. And so,
Mhm.
we still got some time to see if that shakes out or not. So whether it does or not, just do the work. But I think one of the things that I would like to note before we wrap up is that you don't have to jump on an airplane to Peru or to Maui. You can get that kind of that feeling of reserve or calm or going inward or hermitize yourself of sorts in your own home or in your own backyard or God forbid your cabin or whatever. I think why it's so important to do that periodically is when you go and you look at those places and spaces, you remember it isn't all crazy.
Mhm.
Everything isn't crazy everywhere. It's just crazy when you decide it's crazy and you can undecide crazy.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at those people that are living in the tip tops of the Andes and they have such peace, and the shamans could give two shakes about any of that stuff. And
I
you're just
know.
like, wow, what is my deal?
Yeah.
I'm the one that's going crazy with all of this. And so whether it is truly a retreat, a tour, or just 2 hours in the backyard or down at the park, do the effort if you choose to find that balance through nature. And it's free,
Right.
unless you're going on the tour,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
think
free.
that, yeah, rest when you feel like you need to rest and
Yes.
it's time to restore, recharge your batteries a little bit. And
Yeah.
now it's great. I mean, spring, it's right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And the sunshine feels so much better, getting a little of the vitamin D and getting outside, fresh air, all of it is making a
Yeah.
huge difference too. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
So yeah, keep your eye out. Maybe someday we'll have to do a Hawaii tour. Who knows? Maybe that's something to talk about. But in the meantime, if you are interested in Peru, we have been posting pictures on Facebook under my name, and all the sisters have shared, and all the attendees shared tons and tons of information on there. It's really cute. Lots of good stuff, and I will be updating websites soon for information. And probably the tour I will put together not until about May.
Mhm.
So keep your eyes open if you choose. because we
Oh
love
yeah,
it.
I think if you are able to swing it, it's
Yeah.
an amazing experience.
Yeah.
So, and
It
you're
is.
talking January of 2026.
Oh my goodness. Just even hearing those words, right? Yikes.
Like seriously,
Yes. Going fast.
like sci-fi sounding. Oh,
All right, my dear. Well, that was good to catch up our little vacays. Hope you enjoyed that. If you did, great. Maybe hit subscribe button, like or share, and send us off to someone that cares about things beyond the crazy, right?
yeah, there you go.
Until next
Distraction,
time,
a nice
everybody.
distraction.
Cosmic hugs.
Goodbye.